here's also, too, I was saying something about God and the devil being the same, and I used to think it was Achman Ra and Moses and Abraham and Jesus were the same, but actually it's Achman Taman, or however you say that, and I've been talking about how consciousness can be removed or replaced, and that's what happened. So even, and again too, there's stories about with Hagar and Sarah, however you say that, they kicked out the bondservant and her kid, but they kicked out the wrong one, because in all actuality, what if the consciousness was replaced? Because remember, Hagar said the first time she named God Elroy, which is the God who sees me, because just like I can always see people, even when they're in different skins, in different animals, and people think I'm nuts, but if you know, you know. So anywho, also what you have to understand about the 12 tribes, and it said the 12 apostles and disciples will pass judgment upon the tribes. It's also said in the Book of Mormon a lot. And again, we already know about the, Abraham, or Moses says, before Abraham was, I am. And we all know the whole I am thing means because if that's God. And then if you look in the Book of Mormon, it says a lot about I. I could either mean invent or Israel. And so that could be the kingdom, God's children, or the I, the embodiment of God. If you look at, so the Mormons, the families, the sons, they were gifted with not just magical abilities, but technical abilities. So they are the engineers, the real, like, you know how there's like prodigies, right? They have like supreme advanced skill in certain areas that are just like considered unhuman, because they're gifts from the gods. People thought these divine gifts came from Christ or God, and they do, but they misunderstood. And the great mystery is not that basically the miracles of the God, of the divine, came from a woman, from the wife, the hidden woman. There's a beautiful picture too in the Mormon Bible. That is let's see here. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's the covenants and the price of the great pearl with the great price. The pearl of great price, which again is the hidden gem, the hidden wealth, the hidden riches, the hidden powers. Anywho, the picture is here we go. Son of a gun. Hold on. Here we go. Lehi discovers the Leahona. Okay, and I just want you to see this picture, if I can hold it up. Hold the phone. Right? Do you see? I don't know if you can see it, but let me see. I don't know. Anyway, look it up. It's a good picture. But in it, Lehi is on his knees presenting a gift. And there's like this big, brawly king dude, right? But he's not addressing the king. There's also like what seems to be probably a prince, because he's covered in his great fur and he's brawling. But the guy is like trying to hurry him up, get him up, it looks like. And then there's a bunch of people who are like shocked and looking around, but then there's a woman who's seems to be covering a wine pitcher, but it's also like she's bowing in respect because she's recognizing that he recognized her. And then the woman next to her is like, like in contemplation, because again, she's like, wait, what? Wait, what? So, and again, all these things, like, were right in plain sight. And then there's, like, so there's the Jaredites and the, another family, part of the family, right, that branched off, that they were killed in the book of Ether. It was the son of Omer, the father of Corian, I don't know how to say this word. He was an anointed king. He's the one who executes the judgment and righteousness. Now that sounds an awful like God, right? Or Anubis, who weighed the hearts against the feathers. And then there's something about the 12 tribes of Ai, which could be Israel or the infant, to be judged by the 12 disciples. They got the knowledge of the true Messiah, because the true Messiah was not Christ, it was a woman. The Nephites and the Lamanites were remnants of the house of Ai. Again, could be either infant or Israel or God, because I am. So then there's, again, there's the Urim and the Thummim, I don't know how to say that, God forgive me. And then, so there's the Mormon plates, the Ether plates, the Jaredites were erased. They also had the brass plates. And then there's a bunch of other non-biblical prophets that were just erased. There's a part 2 where Lehi's family ate from the tree of life equals immortality. So, but not Laman or Lamel, because for the darkness that was in their hearts or whatever. So again, this caused that, just like, so this story repeats too. So with Isaac and Ishmael, Cain and Abel, Enos and his brother, and the birthright, like they were fighting over the birthright. So, but there's a womb of prophecy, the divine partner. There's something too about the Hajj ritual, the bloodline magic of ancient power, and the daughter of the Pharaoh, Hagar, right? Hagar is Isis. God is Ra, is Moses, is Abraham, is Jesus. There's the lineage of the Egyptians, and there's a certain, right, like the families had children, but half were blessed and the other half were barren of spiritual rights. Amram and Jochebed, and their daughter Miriam, was a priestess. Then there's the miracles of Moses, right? He killed an Egyptian taskmaker. He also, watch this, did mad miracles, right? Everybody talks about Jesus' miracles, but let's talk about Moses' real fast. The burning bush, he turned his rod into a snake. He parted the Red Sea. He turned his hand leprous and then healed it. He brought on the plagues of Egypt. He made the water that was bitter sweet. He brought manna from heaven, the water from the rock, the victory of raising his hand. The commandments, his face was glowing so crazily bright he had to wear a covering. He had divine glory. He opened the earth to swallow the rebels. There was a bronze serpent on a pole. The songs of Moses and prophecy. His body died, but his body was hidden. And now there's a thing about Egypt and Israel, right? There's a big story inside the story. Or if you look about Joseph and Moses, right? It's how you, being Israel or Egypt, represent the system you rise within, or which is Joseph's story in the story. And then with Moses, it's the trauma that you overcome from getting betrayed to becoming blessed, right? And there was, like I said, there's the hidden witch and queen in God's plan. And even in Genesis 12 of every Bible, or the regular Bible, there's Gnostic texts and spiritual secrets of Egypt. And basically, I was talking about, too, how the marriage was the covenant, the bridge that builds the bloodlines, the kingdom of heaven. And the daughter of the Pharaoh was given to Abraham. And but she was made a bondservant, like a lower than. And like Sarai said, here, bang her out so you can have a child. Because she hadn't, in like a mad long time, had been able to have a baby or whatever. But then so Hagar had her baby, so then she would have inherited, he would have been the head of the family, except then suddenly Sarah had a baby, and so she's like now jealous. She's like, no, get rid of that bitch. We don't need her or her little kid, right? But that's also was part of God's plan, because the split and kicking him out into the wilderness also brought forth a stronger bloodline, like the seeds were spread out. So now she went to other places and things happened and blah 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 blah. Just like how Joseph and David and Abraham all read about Jesus, or the Marys, Mary Magdalene, and the midwives, or Rachel, like she was a part of and Job also, that's all Jesus' bloodline, right? And so then there's like Isaiah, he spoke Masonically, and then there's the Gideon people, or there's a story about Ammon who compelled the king. Well, compelling someone is like hypnosis. It's like basically witchcraft, where vampires use it to draw you in, right? And then there's the Mosaic, or however you say his name, God forgive me, there's a prophecy in Revelation, so i.e. he's psychic. The Lamanites and had everlasting life, and the seer sees the Redeemer. Then there's Abadani, who was possessed by the divine, or protected by the divine, excuse me. And then there's a bunch of stuff about water and the legend repeating, and the resurrection of the gospel and rebuilding Zion. And there's devil church and then God's church. There's only two churches, God's and the devil's, among Gentiles and every country, or especially in America, right? But there was the big loss of the Gentile apostasy, basically their word. Same with the Jaredites, the plates and things of that. They wanted to wipe them out. So, because again, there was a big prophecy in the return and the redemption of the people and the building of the new kingdom, the rightful kingdom. And again, the families, right? Laman and Lamal, they did not like this, just like Cain did not like it, but he was not chosen, just like Esau and his brother, who got tricked into losing his birthright. Then there's a story about Korathor, which was the Antichrist. Then there's, there's something about the no speaking in tongues or eye of tongues, which means inventor of tongues or God of tongues, right? Then there's the dissenters. There's the Amisalites, the Lamanites, the Ephraimites, the Nephites, the Jaredites, or Lehi, the Ishmaelites, the Zamorites. Then there's a story about Isabel, the harlot of Zerah, Alma, coronation, Corinthian, something like that, forsakes the ministry and goes after the harlot insert the word invent, which IE, means he invented hookerism and pimpage. He's like, basically, I'm going to be a pimp, not a priest. Then there's Amalekites and the Amulite or something. God forgive me. I'm not like a professional at this shit. Just like God told me, just had a vision called. And the story about like I said, with the Lehi and addressing the woman, I was there. Just like I said about in the garden many times. I was like, bro, I've been here 1,000 times over and over and over, 1,000 ways, 1,000 lifetimes, and can't go home till the war is over. And again, the mystery is solved or been known. This is why the men of the churches or the governments are desperate to overpower women and keep it hidden, that their powers are not their own. They're gifts from the goddesses or the real gods of ancient times and bloodlines. And then also, too, like these people are still here. They have the ability to put their consciousness in a new body. Like I said in a different video about what Sharon Osbourne did with the Kid Liori or whatever his stinking name is. Or no, Youngblood. Sorry, I don't know why I said Kid Liori. Just like Taylor Swift is the daughter of that satanic church. And there's talk about Katy Perry and John Benet Ramsey, or that little girl, God forgive me, I can't remember her name, but her parents, she just disappeared in like some hotel, like while her parents were at dinner or some shit. No, they sacrificed her, okay? Just like there's always been a sacrifice that's hitting cults and covens and churches. And just like the Diddy parties, they're about sex demons and ritualistic abuse and harnessing and siphoning the energy of fear or pureness or rage or light. They use blood magic, moon magic, Ouija board magic, jar magic, graveyard magic, beauty magic, all kinds of poisons, herbs, all kinds of stuff, especially now in the New Age technology. So I made a different video about, and again, I could literally call out so many of these particular families or by name, and I made a video about like the eyes not being able to lie. This is how, too, God saw Hagar for who she was, because of the eyes. This is how, whenever I write poems or I tell my love, I see you, I hear you. And again, there's a part in the King James Bible where, what's his name? Somebody's arrested, right? And when they come to him, he's like, no, bro, I'm from blah, blah, blah. I've studied this, I'm raised this way, I only this way. And then when they come again, he's like, somebody else. And he's like, no, I'm this way. And I can't remember if it's Roman or something, but anyway, look it up. You'll see. But the way they do this is because there's God, and he's split into many vessels, or the sons, right? Father Abraham had many sons. Let us all be one, he said, which means at any time they can switch out their consciousness to another, which is, again, a big reason why there's like wars and destruction between the families, because some of these bastard brothers are under demonic influence and covenants and contracts, so they have used this as, the devil uses it as a foot in the door and to sacrifice and separate the unities of the sacred marriage into divine partnerships by compelling, contaminating, or corrupting one of the vessels of somebody to go into a bed of a wife, right? Um, so this is like a big thing, like that is like a sickness, right? The devil uses this, and they basically trick each other's wives, and by fucking them, this is another way that they carry on the bloodline, is because they split their consciousness into so many vessels, and then go out and are in other bodies. And so even like I don't know, I was watching this like Viking show the other day, or like it came on in like a clip, and this man was addressing again the queen or the whatever, because again the maternals used to, the women had, the matriarchy was who had the power, especially because men were always off exploring, colonizing, or at war. So whatever, they came to the queen, and he's like trying to get a divorce or put the wife to death, and because he's like, that's not my kid, bro, that's not my kid. And she's like, wait, what? And so there's like a story, the wife's like, oh, this guy came to our house, like a stranger, and back in those days too, like there was only one bed, so like people who visited the house would share the bed. So there was, the guy's like, yeah, this dude came to my house and slept in a bed, so I know they banged, and now there's a kid because I can't conceive. But there's like a folk tale about a god who embodies a human and impregnates a barren woman, which is considered to be like a high honor, like a special thing, like you're favored by the gods because he came to you, right? And then there's like a story about I think like Apollo or Zeus, and of how like Hercules comes about, and or there's like a trick. But again, the gods are always like not very nice sometimes. But again, it's a lot of it too, because Satan finds cracks in your armor, and he wants to destroy the divinity and the unity of the bloodlines, and or feed their black hole sun, because the righteous sun, which was Ra, which is the god, this sun disk, and all this stuff, like we know the Ark of the Covenant and this ancient technology. And like we were just talking about the CIA, like time jumps and the machines, and I was talking about like the double M, the members maker. The guy's name's Matthew something. I don't know. Just look into it. Go to the book. Look into the Book of Mormon. Also has a second book, which is like they have the Book of Mormon, but then they have the Book of Mormon, the Doctrines and Covenants, and then the Pearl of the Great Price. Which again, what's a pearl? A pearl is hidden, right? A gem, the great mystery of the Bible, the secrets of Egypt. It's all right in front of your face. And again, the gods and the angels and the demons and the entities and the ancestors are all still here, and at any time can embody anybody. And but again, they also have to split their power up. Like I was talking about, putting their consciousness into children or animals, because there has to have balance and rest. And when you kick out the consciousness of a vessel, well, where does the other consciousness go? You know what I'm saying? It has to go somewhere. So there's children or animals that are used, or that if somebody's weak in the spirit, they can overpower them, like I said, ingesting alcohol, which is an ancient spirit, an entity that literally you black out, you don't remember. And they can take you out of your vessel, replace you, and then go make you murder somebody, rape a kid, and you don't even know it. Your body did it, but your consciousness wasn't an animal, and they just did it because it's part of their cults and covenants and dark magic and sickness. But again, the time is now that the shit will end. The land is going back where it rightfully belongs. The people will have to make. There'll be an atonement. There'll be an arraignment. There's going to be a judgment. There's going to be harsh punishments. People are going from divine to karmic, or to death, or worse. So repent today. Again, look within, look above, and don't forget the mother. and or appreciate the gifts that you were given by the Ancient Ones, the Most High, and the Lamb and his wife.